Hello everyone, welcome back to our MEG-01 British Poetry Lecture series. In the previous lecture, we discussed Romanticism as a literary movement. Today, we will study William Wordsworth's theory of poetry, which forms the core foundation of British Romantic poetry. This topic is extremely important for IGNOU examinations and is frequently asked in different forms such as discuss Wordsworth's theory of poetry, explain Wordsworth's concepts of poetry with reference to the Preface to Lyrical Ballads, and how does Wordsworth define poetry? By the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand Wordsworth's concept of poetry, explain his key ideas clearly, write a strong 20-mark answer in the exam. So without any further wait, let's start with the Wordsworth as a romantic poet. William Wordsworth is considered the chief representative of British romantic poetry. Unlike neoclassical poets, Wordsworth rejected artificial rules, rejected elevated poetic dictions, focused on emotion, nature, and common life. His ideas on poetry are mainly expressed in the Preface to Lyrical Ballads 1800, revised in 1802. This preface is treated as the manifesto of romantic poetry. Wordsworth's definitions of poetry. Wordsworth's most famous definition of poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotional recollected in tranquillity. This single statement is central to his entire theory and must be remembered for examination. Let us break this definition into parts to understand it clearly. A spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. According to Wordsworth's poetry originates in strong human emotions. These emotions may arise from joy, sorrow, love, sympathy, loneliness. The word spontaneous does not mean careless or unplanned. It means natural, sincere, and free from artificial rules. Wordsworth believed that poetry should come from genuine feeling, inner emotional experience, not from mechanical skills, forced imitations of classical method, emotional recollected in tranquillity. This is one of the most important concepts in Wordsworth's theory. Wordsworth explained that the poet first experiences an emotion intensely. Later, when the mind is calm and peaceful, the poet recollects the emotion. This recollection revives the feeling in a controlled and artistic form. Thus, poetry is not written at the moment of emotional excitement, but after reflection. This idea shows that Wordsworth values emotions but also values control and reflection. Role of imagination. Imagination plays a vital role in Wordsworth's poetry. Through imaginations, ordinary experiences become meaningful. Some objects gain emotional depth. Imagination helps the poet connect emotion with thought, transform personal experience into universal truth. Wordsworth does not use imaginations to escape reality but to understand reality more deeply. Now let's discuss subject matters of poetry, common life. Wordsworth deliberately chooses themes from rural life, common people, ordinary human experiences. He believed that the passions of man are more genuine in a state of simplicity. According to him, rustic life allows strong emotions, deeper connections with nature, more purity. This was a radical shift from neoclassical poetry, which focused on aristocratic society. Language of poetry. One of Wordsworth's most revolutionary ideas relates to language. He strongly opposed artificial poetic diction, decorative and ornate language. Instead, he advocated the language really used by men. Wordsworth believed that poetry should use a simple and natural language, be easily understood, reflect real human speech. This made poetry more democratic and accessible. Poet as a man speaking to men. Wordsworth defined the poet as a man speaking to men. By this, he meant the poet is not superior to ordinary people. The poet feels more deeply and thinks more intensely, but shares the same basic human emotion. This ideal reinforces equality, human sympathy, emotional connection between poet and reader. Function of poetry. According to Wordsworth, poetry has a moral and emotional function. Poetry should have cultivate sympathy, strengthen moral feelings, create harmony between human being and nature. Poetry is not meant only to entertain but also to educate emotionally. Now let's discuss Wordsworth versus neoclassical poetry for exam comparison. This type of questions should be asked in exam. Neoclassical poetry emphasizes reason, rules, imitations of classical models, artificial diction. Wordsworth's romantic poetry emphasizes emotion, freedom, original experience, simple language. Such a comparison is very useful in 20-mark answer. Now let's discuss limitations and criticism. Although Wordsworth's theory was revolutionary, critics point out that not all poetry arises from tranquillity. Excessive simplicity may reduce poetic richness. However, IGNOU answers should focus more on explanations than criticism, unless asked specifically. Now let's discuss how to write a 20-mark answer on Wordsworth. In this first, you have to write an introduction, like briefly introduce Wordsworth as a romantic poet and mention the preface to Lyrical Ballads. In the body, explain definitions of poetry, emotion recollected in tranquillity, role of imaginations, language and subject matter, poet as a man speaking to man. Use quotations where possible. In the conclusion, summarize Wordsworth's contributions as a revolutionary force in British poetry. In the conclusion, to conclude, William Wordsworth transformed British poetry by placing emotions at the center, rejecting artificial conventions, British poetry closer to common human life. His theory laid the foundations of romantic poetry and remains essential for understanding MEG-01. In the next lecture, we will discuss Samuel Taylor's Coleridge concept of imagination, which offers a contrast to Wordsworth's ideas. So that's it from this video. Bye bye.